let's get into talking about some commons and uncommons for the Regent. And I'd like to start with the starting deck. Not much to say about strikes and defense. We all know how those work. But Falling Star truly is the star of the show. And I like it because it's a little bit of each of the characters from the original game, where it can apply vulnerable, like the Ironclad, it can apply weak, like the Silent, and it costs 0, like the defects upgrades do. Now, I know it's not free. It does cost star power, but it's important that it doesn't cost any energy, because the reason Falling Star is so good is because it doesn't require the same resource as your strikes and defends out the gate. By costing 2 stars and 0 energy, you can play 4 cards in a turn, and that's what really sets the Regent apart from the others, because you can play Falling Star, deal 7 damage, and apply vulnerable and weak. So you're both attacking and protecting yourself at the same time. And then any combination of strikes and defense is insane. You can block for 5 and apply weak, and you're still dealing 25 damage that turn. That's unlike anything the other characters are capable of. Or you can just play 3 strikes with Falling Star, and you're dealing 34 damage at that point, and you're still applying weak. Falling Star is the one card that my opinion changed to the most on over time, and I kept liking it more and more and more. It's a great card. It's a great card to draw into. It's a great card to tutor for. It's a great card to set up. I highly recommend it. I'm not going to rank Falling Star because that's not helpful for when you need to choose from a card reward which card to take. So actually, I'm going to turn. To talk about Venerate for a moment. The downside to Falling Star is that you have to play this 1-cost card outside of playing Falling Star in order to activate it. Venerate is a surprisingly nice star power generation card. It doesn't do a lot. It does synergize with, I think it's just Black Hole, but that's nice. That's valuable. Upgrading it, you don't need a lot of star power to really get going. And honestly, 2 is a luxury to get for 1 energy. There are plenty of cards that only give 1 or only give 2 on upgrade. So this being in your starting deck is truly a luxury. And again, over time, I started valuing it more and more. I didn't upgrade it often, but I did often want to. I would have been very happy to. I started playing the Regent. I played every character once through. I beat a run with each character, and then I said to myself, well, now I need to climb with 1 character, and I chose the Regent because I was actually more excited for the Necrobinder. Asti is an incredible companion, but I chose to do the Regent because I didn't think I would enjoy it as much. And I wanted to basically get it out of the way. And over time, I gotta be honest, it grew on me a lot. Once I started getting a handle for the energy and the resource and how it works, because star power is just an energy resource that has Ice Cream in play. And you don't replenish it every turn, or you don't gain more every turn. But the fact that it doesn't disappear at the end of the turn is really powerful. It actually got me thinking about the relationship between block versus health. And health is so valuable because it's just block that you get to save over turns, really. And that effect, that barricade effect, is really powerful. So just kind of similar in my mind, it made me think of that. But let's move on, and let's move to our commons and uncommons. And we have a good one out the gate. Astral Pulse. Honestly, it's difficult for me to talk about this card without showing you first my run history a little bit. So this is the Ascension 10 run I just won. But I want to go back to Ascension 5, and I want to show you something. Ascension 5, I beat Ascension 4. I don't think I've cast Astral Pulse once up to this point. And then I hit Ascension 5, and I lose in Act 1. I lose in Act 2. Lose in Act 1. I don't even make it to Act 3. And then I played a multiplayer run with some friends, and that was a lot of fun. And then I won. And honestly, Astral Pulse was such a difference maker. Got a little enchantment on the upgraded Astral Pulse there. Notably, this is also a run where I got 2 big bangs very early. Also very notable. But Astral Pulse felt so powerful here. And then I lost a run. Notably, did not get Astral Pulse in either of these runs. I'm going to check quickly. Did not get Astral Pulse in either of these. And then I took it right after getting a Glow. I took Glow as one of my first picks, which I'll talk about later. But then I got an Astral Pulse, eventually upgraded and 50% more damage. And then I won. And then I took Astral Pulse again, and I won. Ascension 8, I took Astral Pulse again. But my point is, I think Astral Pulse is incredible because I just start winning when I take it. And here's the important thing about Astral Pulse. It costs 0 energy. I cannot stress enough how important this feature is about cards that cost star power. There are cards that cost both, and I have a much more negative opinion of those in general, because energy is a scarce resource. There are no boss relics that give you 1 energy every turn in this game. There's a couple, but I've played 10. I've won 10 Ascensions, and I think I've only seen 1. I've heard there's more, and I think I've gotten the option to choose 1 at other times. But in general, additional recurring energy is very difficult to come by. So this 0 cost I value greatly, and it feels really impactful. The 3 cost star power, think about it like this. In the starter deck, you start with 3 star power. You can play Venerate once, and then you play Venerate once. In the same turn, you can play Falling Star, Astral Pulse, and 3 any combination of strikes and defense. I think Astral Pulse is priced very aggressively. I think I'm surprised it does area of effect damage where it hits all the enemies. It feels like it should be an uncommon. I would gladly take 2 of these very early, because between this, if you can upgrade Venerate or get a Hidden Cache, is definitely the best star power generation common. But even just a Glow, I've really grown to appreciate Glow. I think it's very easy to get Astral Pulse going, and I highly recommend doing so. It doesn't solve all your problems, obviously. There's certain scaling effects you need for the later acts, but Astral Pulse solves a lot of problems early on. Especially, there's that one elite in the docks, there's this group of 4 of them that stick out of the ground and gain block every time you hit them for the first time in a turn, and area effect damage is so important for that, and Astral Pulse solves that. I mean, it does 14 damage. Like, I'm actually going to guess this is going to get a nerf in the next patch. I don't think it's going to get nerfed that badly. I think it's kind of likely it gets moved to uncommon. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think more likely it's going to get dropped to 13 damage. I think they're going to do that. Because the Regent does need cards that work, and this is a card that works, and there are cards that don't work. So Astral Pulse, how do we rank Astral Pulse? It should be right here. I guess amongst commons and uncommons, I think that means I rank it as high as possible, which is I'm excited to take 2. Next, Collision Course. This is another card that I do get excited about. And honestly, I know I already said it once, but this is a card that, there it is. I'm excited to take 2 of these. Secretly, the Regent is the 0-cost character now. Like, he's got the 0-cost effects. He doesn't have 0-cost synergies as much, but that's okay. Every character has 0-cost synergies. You just need to draw cards. Draw more cards, play more cards, and it costs no more energy. And again, energy is a scarce resource. The Debris is actually kind of an interesting card to talk about as well. The first thing I want to note is that it does not count as a colorless card when you exhaust it. It's come up a number of times for me, and I really hope that they make a change that either exhausting a Debris counts as playing a colorless card, or they change the aesthetic. I just want one of those two things to happen. That said, Debris, not too much of a downside. Plenty of times I can play Collision Course and I'm happy to pay the Debris tax and get it out of my hand, but it's strictly better to add a Debris into my hands than just having Collision Course cost 1, because now I can choose. Either I can play Collision Course for free with a status effect, or I can play it for 1 by playing Collision Course and then exhausting Debris. And oftentimes I don't exhaust Debris because the Regent has a couple of cards that let you transform it. One of them is a common we're about to get to, is the very next common, BEGONE. Transforms a card in your hand into a really good attack. 13 damage for 1 energy, and that does count as a colorless card, Minion Dive Bomb. And then there's an uncommon that I do like more. It is better, which is good because it's an uncommon. Charge is really good. Love turning Debris into minion strikes. Really, really good. I think Collision Course is definitely a card I am excited to have more than one of. Highly recommended. Next, we started talking about BEGONE. What a great flavor. I love the Regent a lot, actually. I'm really enjoying him. BEGONE is an interesting card. It's a little bit slow. It does 17 damage for 2 energy, which is below market value in the game, generally. But it does a lot of things. For one, it turns those pesky status cards like Debris and so many status cards that the elites give you that deal damage to you or make you lose life, some of which you can't even exhaust at all or interact with unless you transform them. And BEGONE is a great tool for those because it also saves your life when you cast it. Now, 4 damage is not a lot, but the meat and potatoes of this is definitely the Minion Dive Bomb. And another synergy with BEGONE is that it is twice as potent with strength scaling. So if you gain 1 strength, BEGONE doesn't do 17 damage up to 18 damage. It does 17 up to 19 damage, and that keeps going with each strength you have. It counts as 2 attacks for Nunchaku and similar effects. It counts as playing a colorless card. I mean, BEGONE ends up just having so much value. It is slow, and I do feel that when I play it, but you also don't have to spend the energy right away. You can put Dive Bomb into your library. I have no problem doing that. I have no problem playing Begone and setting up a Dive Bomb for later. That's fine. Begone is a great card, and honestly, am I excited to take 2 of it? I wasn't as excited previously about putting Begone in the top tier, but it always does more than you expect it to, and you can build around it. And I think every deck wants 1 copy. I think that's the thing, is that all of these cards that we're talking about off the bat here, all 3 of these cards, you can basically put 1 copy in every deck, and then some decks thrive with multiple copies. And I think all 3 of these fit that category. So very, very happy with all 3 of these. Also, Begone's just fun. Like, look at this. Oh, okay. Well, let's get to the next one. I'm going to be honest. Let's just get this out of the way. I sort of alluded to this earlier. Crescent is not a card I pick very often. Reasons include, 1, it is a build-around card. It requires having cards that cost star power in your hand, in your library, whatever it may be. Which early on, when I'm picking up my commons, not a thing that I have a lot of. Maybe I'll have 2 or 3, and then it'll deal 10 or 12 damage, which would be great for 1 energy. But it doesn't cost 1 energy. It costs 1 energy and 1 star power, which is just so brutal. Think about Astral Pulse for a second. Astral Pulse costs 3 star power. Crescent Spear only costs the 1. But you need to pay it an energy, and you deal less damage. Let's just be honest. You're not dealing 14 damage with Crescent Spear. Not for a while. Not in most runs. And also, it's not AoE damage. It doesn't hit all enemies. It's not area of effect. I don't like Crescent Spear. I don't recommend taking it. And I don't think dealing 3 per card that costs a star is great scaling. Crescent Spear, not a fan of. Goes at the bottom. Crush Under. Crush Under is truly a tale of 2 cities. This is the card which the design I am most impressed by. I'm so impressed that Mega Crit designed a card I never want to take and take so often. Just think about it. It does area of effect damage, which is really important in this game. It does 1 more damage than a strike, but that's okay. It does more damage than a strike. That's good. But it also protects you. And it only protects you for 1. That's less than a weakening effect would do. But it actually protects you a lot against multi-hit attacks, which is sort of a strange, narrow, it's very a niche effect that take 1 Crush Under and you've got an okay tool against area of effect combats, and even more effective against multi-hit enemies regardless of whether it's area of effect or not. So I end up taking this card because it solves 2 problems that my deck doesn't have a solution to yet very often. So Crush Under, I think honestly, I'm going to be honest, Crush Under gets its own tier. Crush Under goes to C for Crush Under. Crush Under gets its own tier. I don't think there's anything else going in this tier. It's literally just a card that is a little bit of a Swiss Army knife. It does 2.5 things not very well, but it does 2.5 things, and it only costs 1 energy, and I end up taking this card a lot. It's a really important tool against the 1 elite in Act 2. It's a multi-combat, and it's these like eels sticking out of the ground that gain block every time you hit them. But every turn, one of them will do a multi-hit attack. This card in particular is a great tool in that fight, and effective against other fights, like the B elite in Act 2, actually, who does really big multi-hit attacks. So Crush Under gets its own tier. I can't. It's such a surprisingly weak card, and I take it so often. So that's Crush Under. Guiding Star. Guiding Star is fascinating. I do like it. I'm not excited to take it. What do I like more, Guiding Star or Crush Under? So, pros. Guiding Star costs 1 energy and deals 12 damage. That's really good. I'm really into that. Does cost 2 star power, but that is 1 less than Astral Pulse. And it's not too expensive. It's not. 2 stars, not too bad. You can usually afford that, especially if this is in your first card reward. Very easy to pay for. Definitely worth it. Definitely worth the damage. And drawing 2 cards, very important. I like the next turn draw 2 cards. Next turn draw 2 cards is nice because this does cost an energy. And by the time you draw 2 cards, you get your energy back. So that timing's correct and very valuable. My problem with this card is it costs an energy and it costs star power. I can't. It's hard to take this card later. Like once I've taken a few, these kind of upgraded strike commons, the collision courses and things like that, Wrought and War. Once I have those, there's no place for Guiding Star anymore. But the card draw, except for the card draw is effective. It's just costing 1 energy is brutal. So, where do I come down on Guiding Star? I play it less often than I play Crush Under. But it is better than Crush Under. Crush Under truly deserves its own tier. It is better than Crush Under. I think it has to go in B tier. This is a good strike plus. Let's call it. Did I forget? Oh no, I did it. Good for me. We're gonna call that a good strike plus for now, and we'll see. Maybe we'll change that later. If Guiding Star is better than Crush Under, then Photon Cut is better than Guiding Star. Guiding Strike? What's it called? Guiding Star. I like the names are not that hard to remember. It's like the strike titling, except instead of the word strike, it says star. You have like Fallen Star, Guiding Star, Dying Star. There's a lot of the naming convention's very good. I definitely like Photon Cut more than Guiding Star. Why is that? Well, okay, there's a couple of things. It does 2 less damage, and it draws 1 less card, and it draws a card in the same turn, which I just said is less valuable. And that's true. I do believe that. But it also costs 2 less star power, and it doesn't cost 1 of each resource. Again, keeping those resources separate is really important. So if this is what I'm going to spend one of my precious energy on, like Guiding Star asks, Photon Cut needs to really focus in. The thing that Photon Cut does that's really valuable is puts a card from your hand on top of your draw pile. Sometimes, actually, I'm not even going to say sometimes. Oftentimes, I draw Falling Star on a turn where either the enemy's not attacking, or I didn't draw any strikes, or just any other cards to attack with. I don't want to play Falling Star. These effects only last this turn. So I don't want to play Falling Star. It costs me 2 star power, which is not which doesn't renew on its own, and it only does 7 damage. That's bad time. When you have bad timing for Falling Star, that's when Photon Cut saves you. Put it on top, save it for next turn, and also 10 damage is nothing to cough at. 10 damage and draw a card. Photon Cut is not a card I was very high on, but it has grown a lot on me, especially upgrading to dealing +3 damage and drawing 2 cards. This is a big upgrade. So we're going to call this Happy. Happy in any deck. Because that's the other thing. This card asks for nothing. It just helps you. Oh, I should probably put this in the right position. There we go. It just helps you smooth out your draws, set things up, and that's so important so much more often than you realize. Once you start doing it, you miss it when it's not there. So Photon Cut, great. Okay, Solar Strike. This is an interesting card. It's very simple, but I do find this card very interesting, and the reason is because it gains 2 stars on upgrade. Solar Strike, I want to be clear. Solar Strike, I can get this out of the way. Solar Strike is a card I am disappointed taking. D for disappointing? Disappointing is probably a little too harsh at the moment. Oh, God. Yeah. But Solar Strike, it's not a great strike upgrade. 8 damage is not where you want to be. If you're going to spend a card reward, you want it to be better than Strike Plus, or at least as good. That's a good play. Dagger Throw is a good place to be. Even worse, upgrading to deal 9 damage. What that's saying is that the reason to upgrade this card is not for the damage. 2 stars is really good. And again, Venerate uniquely offers 2 stars as a common, basically. So that's the reason to take Solar Strike, is if you really need that 2 stars, or there's nothing better. If there's nothing better, it's not bad. It does do more damage. It does give you more stars. If it lets you set up nice things like Astral Pulse, then go for it. I have no problem with you taking it, but certainly there are better options. So I think Solar Strike going in the disappointing tier makes sense for now. Yeah, actually, I think these tiers make sense to me now. That's disappointing, and F is basically unplayable. I think I'm not ashamed to call Crescent Spear unplayable. I can't figure out how to use it. Wrought in War. What another interesting card. But I know where I'm going to rank it, so let's rank it. Wrought in War goes into disappointing tier, which is not disappointing is still a harsh name, and I need a better name. But Wrought in War is, it's not great. Again, it's 7 damage. 9 on upgrade. Again, it's not where you want to be. But Forge 5. I haven't talked about Forge once. This is a whole other mechanic. Just to say generally, I think Forge is extremely effective as an incidental mechanic in your deck. If you have one card that forges in your deck, that's honestly some of the most value you can get out of Forge, because it draws a card. And as soon as you play a second card that forges, that card does not draw you a card. That really makes me want to have one Forge card in my deck, and I don't want it to be Wrought in War. But if it has to be, if it's early, and I have to choose between Wrought in War and Crescent Spear and something else, Wrought in War, it's fine. Take it. deal 7 damage, and then deal 15 damage with Sovereign Blade the turn after. It's fun. Sovereign Blade's a great card to draw because it retains. It costs you nothing to draw the card. It only gets in the way. It only costs you a draw when you play it, and it shuffles into your deck. Think about it like this. You play Rotten War. You have Sovereign Blade in your hand. It does 15 damage. Wait for a turn where you draw Falling Star. Falling Star? Fallen Star? Falling. Okay. Gerund. Falling. Got it. Wait for a turn where you draw Falling Star, and then play Sovereign Blade for 22 damage. That's pretty good. 2 energy for 22 damage for a card you drew for free? That's pretty good. Again, not excited. Disappointed that if I have to put it in my deck, but it does the job. All right. Celestial Might. This is an interesting card. And it's interesting because it doesn't belong. This is really the middle child, the odd man out. I'm the youngest of 3. Shout out to my middle brother. Celestial Might's a weird card. I don't really know why it's here, but it's pretty good. 6 damage 3 times. 18 damage, not the best rate, but again, oftentimes you can combo it with Falling Star, and then suddenly you're dealing 27 damage instead of 18 damage. That's 27 damages. Great. And it scales very well with Strength. But Celestial Might as a card just to deal damage, I think is a great choice. If it's your first damage card, I think that's fine. It obviously, as soon as you get Vajra or any other strength upgrade, like dealing 21 damage, definitely much better, especially because it's even better than with Falling Star, where it deals at that point, it would be 10 times 3, so 30. It rounds down, unfortunately. But 30 damage with Falling Star dealing 7 damage, that's 37 damage plus 1 leftover energy, and it didn't cost you any star power. Celestial Might, I do think I like it more than these two guys. Is that true? That's interesting. Does it go and crush under tier? Maybe it's good strike plus, honestly. This is how I feel about it. I definitely feel like it's just a better strike. I've only played Celestial Might a little bit, so I was on the fence, but now that I've said it out loud, I think placing it right next to Guiding Star makes a lot of sense. Cloak of Stars. Let's talk about it before I rank it. Cloak of Stars is great. Again, when you have a card that costs 0 and only costs star power, now you can play 3 cards in a turn. More importantly, this lets you play 3 cost cards in the same turn, and you get to block. That's really important. And 7 block's a good amount to block. I don't think this is an amazing card, but I'm happy to put this in my deck. And it only costs 1 star power, so I can put this in my deck at any time, basically, in any deck. So while it has the aesthetic of a card that fits into an archetype or is a build around, 1 star is such a low cost. Like I mentioned earlier, your deck starts with an extra 1 star power. Between playing Falling Star and Venerate, you're never going to go lower than 1 star power. You'll always have that extra 1 left over. So you're guaranteed to be able to play this once. Cloak of Stars, it's not very impactful. It's a little bit like, what's the silent card that this reminds me of? Deflect. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, it is Deflect. It synergizes well with dexterity scaling because you can play it multiple times, but it blocks for 7 instead of 4, which is huge. This card's great. I highly not highly recommended, but I'm happy in any deck. Is that where I feel about it? Is that true? Yeah, I think I would put Cloak of Stars happy in any deck. Yeah, I think I would be happy with it in any deck. It's not that hard to play. It asks for so little. Yeah, I think worse than Photon Cut, but in the same tier. I think that makes sense. I think Astral Pulse, I think this order is correct. Yeah, I think all these orders are correct. Yeah, I think Cloak of Stars does a good job. And the unique job of being able to be played with cards that cost 3, I think is really helpful. As a block card, I think that's great. Oh boy. This card I am least excited to rank. This is a hard card to rank. Because at first glance, I read this as a card that is too little impact for a card draw. Like, having to draw this is not worth what little impact it has. But it does a couple of things that are valuable. It both is offensive and defensive at the same time, which I think is really good. That dash effect. Like the Silent has a card that both deals and blocks in the same turn. I think that I really like dash. I really like that card. And this does it for 0 energy. Now, you upgrade it and you get the great reward of being able to just play it more. It doesn't get more powerful. You can just play it more than the first time, which, like, I'm already not sure I want how good it is the first time, but the thing that I've learned about Know Thy Place is that it's really good in combos. Like, if you have a big Forge Sovereign Sword, or if you have scaling on another card, like, you know, a scaling like Crescent Spear, if you make it work, then suddenly you can just build a deck where you're using Photon Cut to set this card up next turn and draw them at the same time. And actually, it does a good job of that because it costs 0, so you can still pull off the rest of the pieces at the same time. If you need to play Venerate at the same time to get like a Comet Star or whatever it's called, it's like a big attack. I think there's a big uncommon attack somewhere called Devastation, maybe. Devastate, yeah. Something like that. It works with these, and I do appreciate its ability to help putting those pieces together. However, would I put it in any deck? Oh, man. Like I said, this is the card I was least looking forward to ranking. It's tough. Because I think it doesn't look like it needs to... It doesn't look like it requires being in any particular kind of deck. And it doesn't. But it greatly prefers being in a particular type of deck. And I think that's what we call good strike pluses. I think I will put it below these other two because its impact is less. But then there's a point where if you have enough card draws, 0 cost cards are great. And if you have a little bit of card draw and you have some big attacks and you really want to extend your Falling Stars debuffs, if you have enough reasons to add it, you can add it. And if you don't, it's still not the worst. It gets rid of 2 artifacts, which is another valuable thing it does for free. But not excited. Not happy in any deck. I'm not excited, but I think it goes with the good strike pluses. Cosmic Indifference. Out the gate, I can tell you, Cosmic Indifference, I am happy with it in any deck. Probably above Cloak of Stars, but below Photon Cut. Cosmic Indifference, I think I'm happy with it in any deck, and I'll tell you why. Okay, it blocks for 6, which isn't a lot, but this isn't a block card. That said, it does block. But this effect that is on Photon Cut and Cosmic Indifference, where you can choose a card to put on top of your draw pile, in this case from your discard pile, I keep wanting to do this. Let me give you an example. We're going to talk about this card more later, but oftentimes I find myself using Cosmic Indifference on my Ascender's Bane, the curse I start with, put it on top of my deck, and then playing Charge to transform it into a minion strike. And you can do the same thing with status effects. And that's just one thing you can do with Cosmic Indifference. You can set up the combo pieces like you do. Another really important interaction, I'm not going to talk about rares too much right now, but another important interaction with Cosmic Indifference is I am invincible. If it's on top of your draw pile at the end of your turn, you just play it for free. If you have this and Cosmic Indifference, that is such a valuable engine for generating block. So Cosmic Indifference, it does require a little work. It's not the most impactful. I'm not excited to play 2 of them, but at worst case, it's a great card, and at best case, it's a valuable piece of your deck. So I'm very happy putting that in the happy in any deck tier. Gather Light. Now, I really like Gather Light in the context of talking about it with Solar Strike. So Gather Light and Solar Strike do very similar things. For 1 energy, they gain you star power. 1 does damage, the other does block, both at a rate similar to Strikes and Defends, except it's 2 additional than the starter Strikes and Defends do. Where these cards differ is in their upgrades, where Solar Strike gives basically no additional damage but an additional star. Gather Light only gives additional block. And it's very smart. It's very clever game design, because if you're gaining star power, you're building towards something. And as you're putting those pieces together, you're relying on that to win the combat. So you want to be able to block during that setup process. So this makes you choose between, do you want to set up faster, or do you want to set up slower and protect yourself? That is the question these cards ask you to answer. And I think it's really smart. I think it's really interesting. I generally like Gather Light more than Solar Strike. But we're going to put Gather Light, hilariously, in Good Strike Plus. And honestly, above this, above Know Thyself, but below Guiding Star. I think that feels right. Because again, it does the thing you want to do, which is block for you and help you set up. It just doesn't help you set up as much as Solar Strike does, which is fine. Glow. Glow's great. Glow's a great card. I take this card so much. And I'll be honest, I rarely upgrade it. Not that I don't want it upgraded. I feel like upgrades are hard to come by. I'm going to say this. In this game, I upgrade so much less than I rest. I rest so much in this game. Regal Pillow is one of my favorite relics in Slay the Spire 2, and I paid it no mind in the first game. Which is all to say, Glow on its own, this is another reason why I prioritize the star power cards that cost 0. Because I can spend all my energy on glows. I can play 3 glows. I'll get 3 star power and I'll draw 6 cards. And then I can still play Astral Pulse if I drew it. I think that's the effect that I really appreciate about Glow. And I'll be honest, I'm surprised it gives 2 star power on upgrade. That's really good. Imagine Venerate, already perfectly reasonable. What if you just slapped the words, draw 2 cards on there? Wow, that's impressive. So I'm pretty hyped about Glow, but it does work in a specific deck. It can't be added to any deck. So weirdly enough, I am excited to take 2 of them, but I'm not happy with it in any deck. So I think maybe some renaming needs to happen. Or maybe I am just excited to take 2 of it, because here's what I need to decide. Maybe it's just at the bottom of excited to take 2, because yes, star power is its own archetype, but also it's kind of not. There are a lot of cards that ask for star power. It's easy to pick up 1. And if you pick up 1, pick up a Glow. That's all you need. I think, actually, yeah, I am going to put it in the top of tier 2. I almost want to put it above BEGONE. I am. That's how I feel. I can't explain why. I think the art's cooler. Maybe that's the reason. I really like BEGONE. This is tough, but this feels right. I think these two cards next to each other here. Yeah, and I'm going to leave it above BEGONE. That's, honestly, I'm surprised by my decision. I'm very excited to hear what other people say. Hidden Cache. This is a really interesting card for a couple of reasons. It is better than Venerate in most cases, except it only gains you 1 star initially. And that does come up more than I expect it to. And I think it's really funny that when you upgrade it, you get an additional star power, but only on the next turn. It never gives you more than 1 on the turn you play it, which I think is a really interesting... It's an interesting angle to this card. The reason it does this that I've discovered is that it triggers twice on Black Hole. Honestly, Hidden Cache is good with every card that requires star power because it generates the most for 1 energy. And I end up prioritizing it very highly. It's tough to. But this is the card I'm looking for. Once I start getting a few... If I pick up Gamma Blast and Astral Pulse and Cloak of Stars, then I'm like, oh, I really need a Hidden Cache in this deck. Glow is a good alternative. Honestly. Like, if I don't get Hidden Cache and I get Glow, I'm honestly like, okay, at least I can start building something. Where does that leave Hidden Cache? Definitely above the Good Strike Plus. Definitely. I'm not excited to take 2. I don't think I would put 2 Hidden Caches in my deck. But I'm going to leave it here. Do I put it above Cloak of Stars? I am going to put it above Cloak of Stars and below Cosmic Indifference. Perfect. Patter. Okay. I don't want to spend too much time talking about Patter. Vigor, I think, is a mechanic specific to the Regent in a lot of cases, but it's not well supported. There's not a lot for it. And I mostly ignore it, and I don't care. Patter is a bad block card. Or I should say, Patter is a bad card to spend a card reward on. I appreciate that it does both block and be offensive. But I basically never want this card. Vigor, sure, does combo with something like... Celestial Might? Yeah, that's true. It's not a combo I get often, and I think it's just better to set up Celestial Might with Falling Star, which is already in your deck, instead of picking a bad block card. And then, costing 0, you can play another card. You got to spend all 3 energy on, what's it called? Patter and Celestial Might. Although you don't have to do it in the same turn. The nice thing about Vigor is that it sticks around. Vigor would be terrible if it didn't do that. So becomes fine. It's a nice tiny little bonus, but it's mostly a tiny little bonus. And that's about it, because the order you play your cards matters a lot with the Regent, and having to time Vigor and then directly into an attack card, that's actually a little bit challenging. I will take Patter. I think I took it in my most recent winning run, but I think this is a very clear disappointing for sure. Sorry, Patter. It doesn't fulfill any of my dreams. It does block. I think I like it more than Rotten War. I think that's true. But I will say I like it less than Sonic Strike, I think it's called. Yeah, look at me. Yeah, it's close. Star power is just more relevant than Vigor. Not important to me. Refine Blade. Like Rotten War, this card, the Forge mechanic, having multiple cards with Forge incentivizes you to play multiple cards with Forge, but really you only want 1 card with Forge or a lot of synergy. And that a lot of synergy really needs to look like cards that Forge more than 6 or 10. 10's not enough. It's not. I have played this, if it's the only one, but gaining energy isn't really where you want to be either. I don't like this card. I don't think there's no place for this card, but there's kind of no place for this card, I think. I'm gonna be pretty cruel to this card, I think. I think I'm gonna put this in unplayable ahead of Crescent Spear. But yeah, I want this less than Rotten War for sure. And I've tried playing it and I wasn't entirely disappointed with it, but I can't recommend it. I cannot. So I'm putting it in unplayable. The energy generation just doesn't feel that relevant to me because you get around it by spending by clicking on cards that require star power instead, and that's how you get around it. I think that's why. And also Forge 6 is just too little, and spending an upgrade on 4 more Forge is really, it's not good. Forge 10 isn't enough, not on an upgraded card. That's what I think. And speaking of which, Spoils of Battle. Forge 10, nothing else. Upgrades to Forge 15. Like I said, Forge 10 isn't enough. Forge 15 is. Forge 15's a lot. And because of that, I actually like this card a lot. I'm not going to recommend it very highly. This card is going into... Ooh, I do like it less than Crush Under. You can put it into any deck. It can be your only Forge card. But I don't like putting it there. So I am going to put it into disappointing. It's either the top of disappointing or it's just below Sonic Blast. Solar Strike. We'll get there. Because upgraded, it's a pretty good engine actually if you can keep going through your deck and replaying Spoils of Battle for 15. 15's a lot. That's a lot for 1 energy. But it's not the most efficient damage card. But I was about to say I wouldn't be disappointed, and it's in disappointing rank. I wouldn't be disappointed if it was upgraded. Unupgraded, I am disappointed, but I will play it. So I think this is right. I feel good about that ranking. Glitterstream. I'm going to make this ranking very simple. Glitterstream goes straight to the top of happy in any deck. I'll take this card very highly. It scales great with dexterity bonuses. There's a enchantment that when you take a card reward, gives it an enchantment that makes it add more block, and this gets double the impact because it gains block on this turn, and then it gains an additional amount the next turn, and that bonus is applied to both of those separately. Also, it just blocks for 11, which is really important. And I can't stress this enough. It costs 2 energy, which is expensive. But because Falling Star costs 0 energy, can't stress it enough. You can play Falling Star, weaken a big attack, block 11 against it, and still have 1 energy left over. Very happy with Glitterstream. No complaints. A way I like thinking about cards like this sometimes to help explain why they're valuable, and this is really good with area of effect attacks. This does 14 damage, which is pretty good, but the reason it's incredible is because if you have 3 enemies, it does 42 damage. Is that right? 28, 42. Yeah, 42 damage for 0 energy. 42 is a lot. It's unignorable. And it scales based on how many enemies there are. Glitterstream blocks for 15 total over 2 turns, but if you just combine it for now, for 2 energy, it blocks 15. That's 7.5 per energy. That's not bad, but also you don't have to spend 2 cards on it. You don't have to have drawn 5 cards and play 2 of them to get this effect. It's only 1 of the 5 cards you spend to get that 15 block effect, which is more value than spending 2 cards on it, because that last energy, now you have 4 choices of what to play instead of 3. So Glitterstream's great. I don't think you can jam it into any deck, but I do, and I don't usually play 2, but I can. You know what? I think I'm wrong. I will play I will play 2 copies of this card. And maybe I'll even put it above Begone. It's right on the edge for me, but I think for sake of conversation, I am going to leave it in the top rank because I will take 2 of them. Not early, but I take 2 Begones early. I have. I'll do it again. Would I take 2 glows early? I'm more disappointed about that. But I do think the first glow is pretty good. Maybe I do like Begone more than glow. That's probably not true. I don't want 2 Begones. But I will take them. Similar to Glitterstream. I'm going to leave Glitterstream in the rank 1 because it doesn't require any synergy. You can play it as is without any setup. I feel good about that. Gamma Blast. Alright, this is a tough card to talk about. The first thing I want to say about Gamma Blast is that it upgrades to deal 18 damage. An extra 5 damage is pretty good. It's not the most considerable, and I think where I end up with this card is it is the star power payoff I least want to take amongst star power payoffs I will take. Because it just does what Falling Star does. Costs 1 extra star power, which is relevant. Does 1 less damage than Astral Pulse and only targets 1 enemy. But the most important thing about Gamma Blast is applying weak and vulnerable over 2 turns. So being able to set up especially weak on a target for the following turn where it might be doing its big attack is really important. It doesn't cost a lot. I do wish 13 was higher because there's a rare that has a very similar effect, but the damage on that rare is bloated, to put it lightly. So I don't end up taking Gamma Blast a lot, but I'm not disappointed to have it that much. So where does that leave me with Gamma Blast? Is it a good strike? That's an interesting way to put it. Is it a good strike? Maybe I do put it above Guiding Star. I think will put it below Celestial Knight. I do think I'll do that. That's close. That's tough. But Gamma Blast, it's redundant because you have a card in your starter deck that does the same thing. But there's nothing wrong with playing them together. And preferably, I have ways to manipulate Falling Star to play it on the turn I need to. Preferably. But it's definitely better than Know Thyself. That's for sure. Lunar Blast. I'm going to be honest and say I've never played this card. Deal 4 damage for each skill already played this turn. And then I think it's 5. It's about the smallest upgrade it can get. There's another card that feels similar to this. It scales with the number of cards you play in a turn or a certain type of card you play in a turn. And that card, when you upgrade it, gets Retain. That makes sense. But I'm trying to imagine. Cost 0 energy. That's good. You play 3 defends. It deals 12 damage. It's pretty good for 0 energy. It's pretty good. You can play more skills. Okay. What are the 0 cost skills? There's Cloak of Stars. It's a good one. That's solid. I'm into it. Yep. I'm okay. Monologue. Particle Wall. Alignment. Look at all the there's all the 0. They're uncommons. Maybe that explains one of my problems. There's a lot of 0 cost uncommon skills and 1 common. That's an interesting thing to notice. Here's what I'm gonna do. I am gonna put this in unplayable. I'm just gonna rank it where I'm just gonna rank it where I feel it is. Until proven otherwise, and I have been proven otherwise before, for sure. But I need to be proven otherwise. I'm going to put it above Crescent Spear because I think I've tried playing Crescent Spear, or maybe I haven't. I think it's better than Crescent Spear. I don't think it's better than Refined Blade. But I struggle to imagine the use case with the scenario. I'm going to add. I've looked at my deck a couple of times because I have cards that count attacks and skills. I end up with a lot of attacks with the Regents, I think. I can do a count, but I just don't think, like, this isn't the Silent. My deck isn't 80% skills, which makes it hard for this card to be consistent. It requires setup, and the damage, it's 4 or 5. I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed with this card. Radiate. Deal 4 damage. I just need to read Lunar Blast again because Radiate does something surprising. And Radiate damages all enemies. I've learned a couple of things because I played Radiate once. And one thing I learned is that it counts as gaining 3 energy on turn 1 for your starting relic. That's turn 1, 9 damage to all enemies with no additional work. That's pretty good. The reason the only reason I'm talking about Radiate is because it is an AoE attack. I want to say it's good with something like Hidden Cache, but it's not good with Hidden Cache. It merely turns on when you have Hidden Cache. If you don't have Hidden Cache, then it turns off. If you play it on the turn you play Hidden Cache, it deals 3 damage to all enemies, which is not worth a whole card draw, but at least it's turned on. And then the following turn, it'll deal 9 or 12, depending on whether or not it's upgraded, which is good. That's you want to spend a card draw on. But I just said it's either 9 or 12. It's still less than Astral Pulse, which also costs 0. And it does cost star power, but like, play Hidden Cache and then play Astral Pulse and then deal more damage, and you don't have to do it on the same turn. I think that's where I come down, is that Radiate, it's not unplayable, but it's pretty close. And it's inconsistent. You can't rely on it. And I think the run that I tried this where I was able to use it effectively, I lost when I stopped being able to use it effectively. And it's the inconsistency is it's asking for too much. That makes Radiate disappointing. Is it, or maybe it's at the top of unplayable, honestly. Yeah, because I'm not just disappointed. I'm not playing this card. I'm not playing Radiate. I would love to. I would love to try it. I would love to make it work, but it asks too much. So into unplayable it goes. But at the top, because unlike the rest of the unplayable cards, I've used it. Stardust. We're getting into an interesting part of this ranking because we're hitting uncommons, which by definition are uncommon. I've not had an opportunity to play Stardust very often. And by that I mean I think I've never played it, because expending all of my star power to play this, to deal damage to a random enemy, this feels like a payoff if you have a lot of star generation without a payoff. So get Stardust and just, oh, thank God, now I can, drop 7 star power into this and just deal 35 damage for 0 energy, which is great. But you can't target it, which isn't good with Falling Star and Vulnerable. And I think that's a big deal. I think that's a big part of the Regent, is being able to target enemies with Falling Star and then Vulnerable it, follow up with a big attack. This doesn't let you do it. Uncommons, I hate to say, I don't put it very highly. I'll put it above. I don't, it's hard to rank these really low ones because the theme is I don't want to play them. But I'll put it just below Refined Blade. I think that's fair. Devastate. Now, again, uncommon cards. This is a card I've not played often, but I've wanted to. This is a card I look at and I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, you need 6 star power to deal 30 damage with Stardust. This one, you need 4. It does cost an energy, but you only need 4, and you can choose your frickin' target. I'm sorry, it's really important. To be able to vulnerable something, and then you can deal 45 damage with this. I don't want to talk too much about this card. 1, it's very simple. But 2, I've not played it a lot or at all. I'm not actually sure. where would I, like, if I saw this in my first pack, would I pick it? I think I would absolutely take this if this was in my first card reward. It's definitely not happy in any deck, which I think just makes it a good strike plus. Maybe above Gamma Blast, but below Celestial Knight. It's probably better than Celestial Knight, but I haven't tried it enough, but I think that's about where it goes. Kingly Punch. I really like the Regent. I'm sorry. I do. Important thing I learned about Kingly Punch that's not immediately intuitive is that it deals 11 damage the first time you draw it, which makes sense. It's exactly how it reads. But I didn't think about that because it says 8. So I assumed it does 8 damage, and that's wrong. It does 11 damage the first time you play it, and that's really important because 1 energy for 11 damage on an attack card, that's an upgraded strike. It's a good upgraded strike. Deals 13 if it's upgraded, which you don't upgrade often, but it's a good upgrade. It's not a great payoff. If you happen to have a smaller deck and or lots of draw, the card gets better. But honestly, early on, this is just a good upgraded strike, and I can highly recommend taking this early on in the run for sure. Do I put it above Celestial Knight is an interesting question. I like it more than Celestial Knight because it scales without any help. And all it asks you to do is draw cards, which any deck wants to do. I almost want to put it in happy in any deck, but it doesn't scale well throughout the run. Like there's a point where Kingly Punch becomes much less relevant, and all these cards in happy in any deck are still relevant later in the run. So I think at the top of good strike plus is a nice place for Kingly Punch. Shining Strike. This is an interesting card. Let's go top to bottom for a second. 1 energy, deal 8 damage. Not great. Not a great start. The upgrade adds 3 more damage, which is the minimum it should be adding for an upgraded strike. But that's also all it adds. So we're in strike territory and not great territory. But we're there. Next line down. Gain 2 star power. Oh, okay. It's Venerate, except it says deal 8 damage. Well, suddenly, now I'm on board. Now you have my attention. Actually, is this deal 8 damage and 2 star? Is that Solar Strike? Oh no, it does 1 less damage than an upgraded Solar Strike. That's funny, but it's right in the same wheelhouse. It's right in the same spot. Upgraded, still only 11 damage, still 2 star power. Okay, now we're somewhere. And then you play it, and then you put it on top of your draw pile. I think the reason I don't like this card is, again, Regent is the 0 cost character, secretly. And 0 cost cards go well with card draw. You want to draw those 0 cost cards again. By putting Shining Strike on top of your draw pile, you're putting all those cards 1 further away from being drawn. This can generate a decent amount of star power. You play it, you get 2 star power this turn. Next turn, you get 2 star power that turn. That's pretty good. But you don't want to draw a card that deals 8 damage for 1 energy. You don't. That's not the card you want. Yes, it generates star power, but there's other ways to generate star power incidentally that's just way more effective than interrupting your draw. There's so many important things to do with the top of your draw pile with Cosmic Indifference, Photon Cut. I mean, and then you put this... It's not the card you want to put on top of your deck. I don't want to draw... Whoops, that's the wrong one. I don't want to draw this card more. I want to draw this card less. If it didn't have the last line of text, I might rank this higher. But as is... Oh, I hate to say it. I think Shining Strike's unplayable. I'll put it just below Radiate, but I think it's pretty unplayable. Supermassive. I owe an apology to Supermassive. This card's great, and you should play this card. Deal 3 damage for each card you created this combat. Cards you create include things from... I just saw it. Where is it? Spectrum Shift. Manifest Authority. That's another one. Charge gives you 2 instances of creating a card. Transforming cards counts as 2. Really important. Quasar counts. BEGONE. That's another one I like. And Collision Course. And there are others. There are other ways to create cards. You can create cards with potions. And I cannot stress this enough. The thing that sets this card apart from the cards that are unplayable is that Supermassive. The damage scaling stays on the card. So the next time you play it, it counts the whole combat. The number of cards you played, even before you've played Supermassive. It's not a power that you need to play this first to get the value. It just checks all the time while it's in your deck having not been played. So you can think about it like this. Even an unupgraded Supermassive. If you have Supermassive in your deck anywhere, you play Spectrum Shift, and every turn it deals... You deal 3 more damage to the opponent. Because eventually you will. More so if you have Vulnerable on them, which, again, is an important feature of this character. You play Charge. Charge now transforms 2 cards into minion strikes and deals 6 damage. Supermassive is such a good payoff for creating cards. It does require setup. Because otherwise, it's just an iffy strike. But it's so good. We're putting it... Oof, boy, it's tough. It's going to go in the happy in any deck tier. Because I could take 2. The thing about taking 2 is... you want to be able to take 2 in the early part of the game. And Supermassive isn't as good in the early part of the run. It's also not important to take 2 copies of it. It really is just a good strike plus, but it's not a good strike plus because it's not as good in the early part of the game. What it really is a perfect uncommon. You don't see it that often, but you see it just enough where you can get 1 copy for your deck that you have like 2 or 3 card creation cards. If you've got the power that adds a colorless every turn, or if you can create 2 minion strikes in your deck, then you're good. Even if you just have 1 of those, I think that's all you need. And a Collision Course early on. It's such a good payoff. It can deal so much damage. I'm going to put this card in Happy in Any Deck. I'm going to leave it in the middle. That's just kind of where I'm feeling with it. Because Cosmic Indifference can go in any deck. Hidden Cache can go in most decks. Supermassive can go in some decks, but it's really good. I feel good about that. Hegemony. I don't know. This card's funny. I think this is really entertaining. It's got the bird in it. He's attacking the bird. We like the bird, Regent. But Regent's kind of a jerk. I think that's part of his vibe. This is very reminiscent of the Silence Predator, which does 15 damage and you draw 2 cards the next turn. This is 15 damage and you gain 2 energy next turn. So I think that's kind of a nice design aesthetic, kind of a nice reflection of the silent card. I did not play this card very often, but I played it once for very good effects. I really valued the energy generation. The damage amount was very good. And I just noticed it upgrades to giving 3 energy and only 3 damage. I'm not a fan of only adding 3 damage to attack cards that cost 2. I really would love to see... I'd love to see 6 because that would be like upgrading 2 strikes, but I need at least 5. 3 is disappointing, but the extra energy is interesting. I don't think I upgraded my Hegemony. But I'm going to call this just a really decent Strike Plus. I think that's a nice, cozy place for this card. How good of a Strike Plus? Less than Kingly Strike. Ooh, do I take it over Celestial Might? I kind of like Celestial Might more. It does more damage, and I'm just looking to do more damage. And the energy is not as important. I can work around energy. I can play 0-cost star power cards. Yeah, I think this is a good place for it. Maybe it is below Gamma Blast, but I'll get there. Gamma Blast, I feel like I need more practice with, as is Devastate. But Hegemony worked very well. I do like taking it more than Gamma Blast, which is interesting. I think Gamma Blast costing 3 star power is tough. I do think that is hard to swallow. So, yeah, I think it's a good place. Oh, Knockout Blow. This is, we love big numbers, and this is a big number on a card. Again, it's so valuable to have cards that cost 0 energy so you can play them at the same time as things like this. Upgrading this goes to 38 damage, which is, like I talked about, when you have a card, an attack, that costs more than 1 energy, you need its upgrade to really scale up the damage. So this adds 8. If it was 9, that would be equivalent to upgrading 3 strikes. 8, close enough. That's fine. I will take 8. 8's a good number. Like just -1, that's fine. We're getting very efficient card draw efficiency here. Not often am I utilizing the star power, but the nice thing about the star power resource is that it doesn't go away at the end of the turn. So if you can pull this off, great. Unfortunately, you're usually going to be using this on early combats, and some of the time it's going to be the last enemy in the combat, so you're not able to use that star power. But the 5 star power is really just gravy. 3 energy for 38 damage is enough for me because I can play Falling Star and then follow it up with Knockout Blow and deal 52 damage in a single turn. It's pretty good. The funny thing about that is I'm probably just going to call this a Strike Plus. I definitely don't want more than 2. There are certain synergies you can find by the fact that this costs 3 energy. I think I like it more than Gamma Blast. How much damage does Devastate do? Also does 30 damage. That's an interesting comparison. Because I've played Knockout Blow, but I've not played Devastate. Playing both of them for the same reason, for sure. Knockout Blow is easier to combo with Falling Star. I am going to bump it up. It gets worse later in the run, for sure. I'm going to leave it here. I think I'm wrong. I think it does. No, I think it does go below Celestial Might. What an interesting card. The fact that it costs 3 is just so much less of an issue in the Regent than it is others. It's very interesting. Cool. Kingly Kick. I like it less than Kingly Punch because it requires the fight taking longer for it to deal 24 damage, and the damage doesn't go up. But like Kingly Punch, the first time you play this, it costs 3. So that's really important. And 24 damage for 3 is pretty good. I wish it goes up to 30, so the first time is just worse than Knockout Blow. And the first time's really important, I think. Because over time, usually your deck's getting better. Usually you're building up to stuff, or the opponent's getting weaker perhaps, and you're closer to finishing them off, and Knockout Blow is just already closer to that goal. And by the time you can kill them, you don't need to spend energy on other things necessarily. You just need to play the one thing. You don't need to worry about blocking. So you just play the big card and end it. So I end up not taking Kingly Kick basically ever. I think I've had it once and wasn't disappointed with it, but I can't recommend taking Kingly Kick. For 3 energy, dealing 24 damage, plus Falling Star, that's 31, plus 12, which is 43, which is good. It's a good place to be. It's just there's better options. We're going to call this, we'll call it a good strike. Like, not very good. No, I think I'm disappointed. I'll put it at the top of... oh, man. My opinion of this card's just sinking. Maybe I'll put it here. I think I like the Forge better. I only like it with Forge 15 though, so I'll put it above that. Solar Strike or this. This is a good place. I'm gonna stop right there. That feels like a good place. Alignments. I'm just gonna say I don't like this card. I understand you can combo this with Glow to get infinite energy and star power. No, not infinite star power, just infinite energy. But I've not found a need for it. I find it's a little too difficult to set up, and the payoff is not there. Like, there's an X star in Regent, not an X energy. There are X energy cards in general, but this is not where I want alignment. There are similar effects that I like, but this is not a good use of star power, I don't think. And I can't. And again, incidental energy on some cards is good, but a card that just converts my star power into energy on a turn and I have to set it up, I'm not impressed with alignment. I'd be pretty disappointed with it. I don't think it's unplayable, but I would be pretty disappointed with it. I am going to put it at the bottom of disappointing. Yeah, I think that feels right. Monologue. So I made an allusion to this card earlier. I'm not a fan of this card where the scaling requires it all to happen in the same turn. But it does retain on upgrade, and that changes this card drastically because you really need to set this up for it to be effective. It's better on cards that do multi-hit, which it seems to be a theme with the Regent, but I don't feel like it's very well supported. But long story short, I've not played Monologue, so I don't have a good opinion of it, but I've never seen an opportunity that I want to play it. That makes me want to put it in the unplayables. I'm going to put it below Refined Blade, but above Stardust. I do need more time to form an opinion about it, but that's where I'm going to put it for now. Particle Wall. Particle Wall is another card I owe an apology to. I didn't get it. I just didn't understand that this can block for 27 for 0 energy. And now I do, and now it's great. It's very similar to Cloak of Stars. It costs 1 more star power, but gives you 9 block and the opportunity to get 18 or 27 block, etc., etc. It's pretty good. It's really good payoff if you have an excess of star power to spend. And that can be difficult to acquire. And I think that's where I kind of holds back being too excited about this card. But the potential for the amount of block it can give is really, really high and really important. Like, it's really important that you have an outlet to just spend as much energy or star power, spend as much resource as you can to make this as effective as you need it to. Like, you have 6 star power and you've been saving it for this one thing, but you're about to get smacked for 30. Like, oh, time to put up a particle wall. Or you can even put up 2 particle walls and a weak. Like, that optional amount to spend is really important. So particle wall is great. You can't jam it into any deck, but it's great. That makes me put it up here. It goes with Cloak of Stars. It is very similar to Cloak of Stars, so it's not surprising it goes next to it. I do need more experience playing with it, I'm feeling, because I'm going to move it sort of arbitrarily to the left of Hidden Cache, but below Supermassive. I think that's right. I feel okay with that. Quasar. I have a confession. I love creating colorless cards. Even more so, I love creating upgraded colorless cards. Quasar is one of the worst cards to do this because, kind of like alignment, all it does is create energy. All Quasar does is put a colorless card in your hands. 1 of 3, actually, which is nice. Getting a choice is actually really nice. I really like this effect. I find it tends to be pretty powerful what you can get. Sometimes you get a card that is free, and that's really good. In this case, you don't get it for free, but the upgraded version is really valuable. But it is random. a little bit. You choose amongst 3. It only costs 2 star power. It costing no energy means you can play the card in the same turn because all the colorless cards don't require star power. So that's a nice... The star power mechanic really solves the problem of play this card, it costs you resource, but you still have your energy for the thing it now lets you play. I really like this character. It's really well designed. All that said, I think Quasar is really tough to rank. Not disappointing. I'm not disappointed to have it, but I'll put it in the good strike plus. I think below Guiding Star, above Gatherlight. I feel okay about that. Royal Gamble. What a bizarre card. A card that costs star power only to make star power. Oh, and it retains. I've never actually seen this upgrade before. That's interesting. That makes sense. So then, okay, the retain is a really nice mechanic because it kind of, once you draw it the first time, then it's removed from your deck. And that's really important because then you can draw other cards sooner. And this is the kind of card that, like, yep, you need to use it when you can. And it just dumps a bunch of star power in your pool when you already have 5. Like, 5 is right on the edge of it's your starting relic plus unupgraded Venerate. So it's a smart number. I guess I kind of wish it gave 10, but maybe 10's too many. Here's the thing. I've never played this card. I've thought about it. I've definitely been close to playing it, but it does very little. And I'm not going to rank it very highly. Is it unplayable? It's close. It feels unplayable to me. I haven't played this card yet, but I'm going to put it in unplayable. I'll put it closer to the top. Put it seconds. I think that's right. It only generates star power and only under certain conditions. I think that's a tough card to sell me on. Okay. It's nice to come back to things that I enjoy again. I think Charge is powerful. I think Charge is fun. I think it does a lot of damage. If you think about kind of condensing all the things it does into a single moment, for 1 energy, it deals 14 damage and draws 2 cards. That's a good card. Additionally, it has the added bonus of being able to remove curses and status conditions and pesky, crappy strikes from your deck. It works really well with Cosmic Indifference and Photon Cut. I really like Charge. I don't think I'm happy to have 2 of it in my deck. Just look at the upgrade just for the sake of minion strikes pluses. They each get 3, so it deals 6 additional damage on an upgrade, which is comparatively a pretty big upgrade. I like this card a lot, and I would recommend playing it. Happy in any deck, basically. Yeah, maybe I don't put it that highly. Like, it's weird. I can't put it below BEGONE. It does require a little bit more setup. BEGONE's just a good strike that thins out the status problems a little bit. And Charge does it aggressively, but you kind of need a little bit more setup for it. So, in the decks where it's good, I like Charge more than BEGONE, but BEGONE can fit into any deck more easily. It's really interesting. It's a really interesting. I thought I liked Charge more than BEGONE, but I'm realizing Charge is a little less versatile. But it's definitely more powerful. I've never had more than 1 Charge in a deck. I'm going to put it at the top of this tier. I feel good about that. Card's a big payoff, transforms a lot of cards. It creates a lot of cards. That's another valuable engine that it's a piece of. That it adds 2 cards to the cards created counter, which Supermassive is looking for. So the Supermassive and Charge in the same deck is where you want to be. Boy, I'm surprised how many cards I haven't played. I've never played Conqueror, and I've never wanted to because, first of all, the Forge is pitifully small. It's such a small Forge number. And it deals double damage to the enemy this turn, Sovereign Blade. But you have to set it up, which I guess Sovereign Blade sits in your hand. That retains. I'm probably underestimating this card. Here's the thing. I mentioned this before. Forge is a mechanic you can build around, but it's also a mechanic that you can just... It's most efficient if you just have the one Forge card. And this can't be that one Forge card. This has to be, I'm building around a strategy. I'm really building up my Sovereign Blade and going for one big attack. And that's a good deck. But this only fits in that deck. It can't be your one incidental Forge card. And there's other ways to scale the damage. Just vulnerable plus this is really, combining this with other scaling damage is really good, but this is not the best version of it. And it's not the one I'm most excited for. And again, the Forge number is so small. I don't like a small Forge. It's not impactful enough. I don't think I can call this unplayable. It just requires so much built around it. So I'm going to put it below Wrought and War. Yeah, because at least Wrought and War you can play early in the run. I'll put it above Alignment because I do think it is a payoff for that type of deck. Convergence. Convergence is a card that I take begrudgingly, but it's not bad. It does very little. It's one of these cards that upgrades and just gives you one more star. There's a bunch of cards that do that. I would love it if it drew a card or gained another, just star power. Okay, I guess it's a card that generates star power, but only next turn. The retain aspect is good. This is a really good card to set up combos with, and that's what I've used it for, but only in conjunction with other things. There's a rare that lets you tutor by tutor I mean search for a card and put it into your hands. And there's a card that lets you do that between this retaining cards that I have in my current hand and then tutoring for the other piece of a combo, I built decks like that. But that's a rare. And outside of that, retaining your hand can be scary sometimes. You have to make sure you don't retain so many cards that you don't draw a full hand next turn. It's not usually a problem, but I do think about it. I do have to measure that. For 1 energy, it gives you the energy back and gives you star power and sort of draws cards. It's pretty good. I mean, on the surface, it's pretty good. The problem is it does nothing for you when you play it. The cards you draw are later in the form of holding on to cards from the previous turn's hands. But it's not bad. It gives you star power, and I've used it for that purpose. Sometimes when I need star power and instead of glow, I get convergence, and I'm disappointed, but I take it. That makes this card... I'll put it, honestly, below Solar Strike, because it's worse. I don't want convergence in the early part of a run, that's for sure. But it has higher upside than a lot of the other cards. Yeah, that seems good. Glimmer. Can I tell you, I like Glimmer, and I haven't seen it in 7 runs or something. 1 energy, draw 3 cards. That's great. Also, synergy, put a card from my hand on top of my draw pile. Love that. It's such a valuable mechanic. Draw 4 cards on the upgrade. Love to see that. I really like Glimmer. I think I always undervalue card draw, and I take this, and then I'm just very happy. And I think Glimmer, there's a couple of cards that generate energy. You don't necessarily need it, but it does get a lot better if you can generate energy. So definitely pick up a Glimmer if you have a Convergence. Not necessarily the other way around. If you have Glimmer, you don't need to pick up Convergence afterwards. But yeah, Glimmer doesn't kill your opponent, and Glimmer is not necessary in every deck. It's a replaceable effect, but it doesn't require anything else built around it. So just very solid card. That makes me want to put it probably just somewhere mid good strikes. It's tough because it's less good in the early part of a run, and a lot of these good strike pluses are good in the early part of a run. So I think, yeah, right in between. Like, Devastate's a little hard to play in the early part of the run. Hegemony is like right on the edge of I will play this in the early part of a run. And Glimmer's good, just less good in the early part of a run, but not unplayable. Still useful for setting up your Falling Star. Okay, again, I'm a sucker for creating cards. Oops. Now this one requires you to spend the energy, and then it's harder to play the upgraded colorless card you get. However, if you're going to spend an energy, getting it on 8 block is pretty good. I like Manifest Authority. I think it's fun, but it's fun to play. I'm a sucker for creating cards. There was a defect card in the previous game. I forget what it was called, but it was a hand, and it would let you play an attack from a different character for 0 that turn, and I loved that card. I loved playing that card. I thought it was so fun. I thought it was so powerful, and I get the same feeling from cards like this. 7 blocks, not a lot, but it's enough for me to feel good about it. It draws a card. It draws a random card, which is worse than Quasar for sure. And in fact, for that reason, the upgraded version is that much more important. Because you have less choice over what you're getting, you need it's more important that you are guaranteed something that will be impactful. It's all to say, it's not the best card in the world. I just enjoy playing it, which I'm trying not to be biased, but doing my best. Ooh, I think a good comparison is Gather Light and Quasar. I think that's a good comparison. I think I do like it less than Guiding Strike because drawing cards is good in most decks. I like Manifest Authority more than Guiding Light. It draws a card. I think that's fair to say it's better than Guiding Light. Yeah, I think that's fair. And the upgrade is better. The upgraded colorless cards can be really powerful. I feel good about that. Reflect. This is another card. I feel like this is difficult to rate because it's hard to gauge how much damage it does, but I gotta say 17 blocks a lot. And it deals damage. I love a card that both protects you and is offensive. I love cards like that. The upgrade shows 21 block. Not a big upgrade, but it's enough. It's enough. I mean, it's already, the base is so much that anything more is certainly good, but 17 is just so much. I'm going to call Reflect definitely in the good strike plus tier. It's probably better than Gamma Blast. It's tough to say. It's close, but it is right around there. I'm going to put it under Guiding Star because, again, Guiding Star I can play early. And for 1 energy, 12 damage, like, Guiding Star is a good strike. Reflect is not a good strike, but it's around that power level. And it's better than Quasar. I think that's true. I just like Quasar. I'm going to keep saying it. If anyone has an idea of how to pronounce Quasar better than I am, let me know. Resonance. I don't want to spend too long on this card, but I will explain my reasoning. This card's bad and you shouldn't play it. Let's ignore the 3-star power for a second. For 1 energy, you get 1 strength. That's below rate. For 1 energy, you get 2 strength. That's good. So for 3-star power, all enemies lose 1 strength. Even on an upgrade, they don't lose any more strength than 1 at a time. And I think that's the more important part of this card. And 3-star power is just too expensive. I've tried playing this, and the impact is so unnoticeable for how much resource I have to put into it to play it just the first time. And to really see an impact, you want to play this multiple times, and 3-star power is just too expensive. So I don't like Resonance. I've tried playing it. I thought it was good. It's a card that I did not rate correctly when I first saw it. I thought I would be able to get into a rhythm of generating a lot of star power and just reducing my enemy's strength to nothing. And it's not true. I've never made the dream work. If you feel differently, let me know. But I don't like this card. I don't like it. I've not tried Stardust, so I'm going to put it below Stardust, because maybe Stardust is better than I think. But yeah, Resonance is a very disappointing card to me. Summon Forth. You know, this is a card I've seen a lot, but I've never played it. And I think part of the reason is because it does solve the problem of forging not drawing you a card after the first time. The first forge is great. It draws you a card. But after that, it only adds damage. This one fixes the problem. You forge, and then you draw your Sovereign Blade from anywhere, except if it's already in your hands. And I do a lot of sitting around with Sovereign Blade in my hands. I think 8 and 11 are on the right track as far as how much forge this card should have, but it's still too little. This card might be better than I think it is, but I don't like it. I like the idea behind this card, that it solves the problem of this can be a good second forge card to put in your deck. But Sovereign Blade spends a lot of time in my hands when I have it. And there's other ways to get it back into your hands. Cosmic Indifference, Photon Cut. I don't mean to be a broken record, but these are commons. It's not hard to pick up one of these. Or just play card draw. Or just retain it. And then that second effect is useless. And now you're playing a card worse than Spoils of Battle. That's not where you want to be. So, again, I haven't played it before. Willing to be open to what it's capable of, but doesn't pass the test for me at first brush. What I might do is I'll put this at the top of unplayable. I don't think it's unplayable, but I think it's close. So I'll leave it at the top of unplayable. Terraforming. I was about to say this card's unplayable, and that's all I have to say about it. It's just a strike that the damage is put on the next card you play and does nothing else. Sure, you can combo it with multi-attacks. That is good. And I did do that once, but I don't think I needed to do that. I had a very good deck, and I had a rare that dealt a good amount of damage multiple times. And I decided to add Terraforming just to zhuzh it up. But I don't think this card's very good. I haven't seen it very often. I haven't had a chance to play it, unlike Summon Forth. I've seen this card a decent number of times, and I've just never felt the opportunity where it was good. Terraforming, I have not seen it as often, but I'm glad. I don't want to see this card. I don't think it's very useful. Yeah, again, I'll put it above Summon Forth. I don't even know if that's true. No, maybe that's not true. But it's right here. Somewhere around here. Not into it. If I'm wrong, if I'm missing something about Vigor, let me know, but I've not seen it. Ooh, Bulwark. This is a great card to talk about. Bulwark is very powerful. Forge 10 is a good number. Blocking 13? It's only 6.5 block per energy, but to deal so much damage and block, This is a big impact. Upgrade, adding 3 to both numbers. 3 is a great number to add to each of them. Bulwark's so impactful any turn. 13 blocks a lot of block. And you can put this in any deck. This card's really good. It's not the best card. It's not my favorite card. But it's an uncommon. So I just haven't gotten the chance to play it as much. But it's been very good for me. I think this card's just a good card. And we're gonna justify it so. Excited to take 2? I think so. I think this card gets better the more you have. Where do I want Bulwark to be in the top tier? It's tough because I haven't played it as much. It's an uncommon. I think I like it more than BEGONE, but I think I'm going to stop there. It might deserve to be higher. I need more experience with it. But I can't think of a reason why it shouldn't be. Collision Course is very efficient. Glow works with a primary strategy of the Regent, because the strategies in the Regent really are like star power, card creation, forge, vigor. So I don't mind leaving Glow above it for now, but I look forward to playing more Bulwarks in my future. Prophesize. Okay. Prophesize commits a sin, which is spending all your energy before you draw cards. I would love to draw 6 cards, but I've never found an opportunity where I want to spend 2 energy to do it. Upgrade draws 9. The hand limit in this game is 10. Listen, I'm going to call this card unplayable. This one I need explained to me. I'm surprised it's even... I guess you can spend your star power. I guess it's a payoff for having a lot of star power. But what a specific setup. It's a useless card early in a run. This card's like very unplayable, in my opinion. I think it's more unplayable than Resonance. I think it's... Yeah, I think this only works in a specific deck. And it's not a deck I build very often. Or I just need more energy. Like, I'm not playing alignment often either, so it would be good with alignments, but... Or at least better. But I don't have a place for this card in my decks. I'd love to see a run where you have this card in your pool. Because I wonder what it looks like to contribute. You need a lot of 0-cost cards that cost star power, but you need to set that all up, and you need to have enough where it's worth drawing it. You need to be able to draw 6 or 9 cards. Yeah. There's something, I feel like there's something missing. There's something I'm missing about this card. Maybe there's a way to manipulate the amount of energy it costs. There's a couple of ways to do that. And maybe that's a good payoff. But still too few and far between. So I think this card's pretty unplayable. Black Hole. Black Hole's fun. Let me start there. And uniquely triggers off both spending and gaining star power. So this is why like Hidden Cache is interesting with this card, because it triggers twice, and I think is one of the reasons why Hidden Cache is split between 2 turns the way it is. Black Hole's a good payoff for having a lot of star power. Dealing 3 damage is not a lot, but dealing 3 damage to all enemies, very important. Suddenly damage multiplies per the number of enemies, and that's really good. You really feel the impact when you upgrade it, even though it's only 1. I think Black Hole's a pretty spot on in the balance, where I definitely like having it. I definitely like having 2. Once I have 2 Black Holes, then I feel like I'm really raking it in, and it's worth picking up multiple copies of it. But it only works in that deck. So ranking this card is going to be difficult because it is a build around card. I think I'll put it just below Kingly Strike. I think it's a really good payoff in the most common deck archetype. but it requires a little bit of work. And a bunch of these cards do require a little bit of work. Kingly Strike just doesn't require any work. That's the thing. It's only a good strike. But Black Hole is a good payoff. Another thing I like about Black Hole is its ability to clear, I think it's called ink, when it takes 1 damage and you have to get rid of them. It's sort of like intangible, but it's limited to a number of attacks you deal to it, not a number of turns it's intangible. So Black Hole's really good at clearing that. I'm probably ranking Black Hole too highly, but I don't know. No, I think that feels good. It does incidental damage. It's only it's a power that costs only 1 energy. Having 2 copies is great, but it does require the build around. Yeah, Black Hole is pretty good. Child of the Stars. This is an interesting power. I go back and forth on this one. Sometimes this feels really powerful, but more often than that, it feels like a waste of an energy and a card. It requires a lot of setup, and it requires a lot of time. It needs to be in a specific deck, but eventually it can be really good. It's a really good payoff for the expensive star power cards. That's a nice thing where something costs 5 star power and you play it and then you gain 10 block. That's really important. Or, 15 block? Yeah. Upgraded Child of the Stars is great. Having more than 1 copy of Child of the Stars is great. The setup feels so much slower. In part because it only triggers on spending star power, which is more expensive than just incidentally gaining star power from the various sources that do it. So, Child of the Star. It's not going to go very high. I'm going to put it below Black Hole because it asks for more. But it's good. Maybe just below Glimmer. I think that's a good place for it. I would probably put it below Devastate. I think Devastate, like the deck where you have Devastate and Child of the Star, you want Devastate first. And then when you have Devastate, then you can add Child of the Star. I think that's right. Sort of similar for Gamma Blast, but I probably could be convinced to bump this down more, but not too much more, somewhere in here. I actually kind of feel like I want to swap Guiding Star and Gamma Blast. I play Guiding Star so much more. It's funny how big of a difference 2 star power to 3 star power feels. It's incredible. Yeah, maybe I do want to move Child of the Star down. I'll put it above Reflect. Furnace. This is an interesting card. I kind of like this card, but it's not very good. But it does damage scale. I really don't like this unupgraded. But 6 Forge every turn is fine to eventually set up a big Sovereign Blade that I can eventually add Vulnerable to and then get another 50% damage on it. I am okay with playing this card, but I'm not going to take this very highly, and it's not going to replace a good strike card. I think it is disappointing. Yeah, you know what? My problem is I do like the card, but it is disappointing. It's right around Spoils of War, which ramps so much faster but costs you an energy to do so every time. Furnace is probably better than Spoils of War, but not by much. Because Spoils of War, you can ramp faster by manipulating the deck to the top of your library, things like that. But I'll leave it right above Spoils of War and right below Kingly Kick. I'm okay with that. I'm going to put it below Kingly Kick. I'm going to leave it next to Spoils of War. That's tough, but it's somewhere around there. Pale Blue Dot. What an interesting card. What's the reference to? What does that mean, Pale Blue Dot? I feel like that must mean something. I have played this card before, and I've not been upset by it, except it is hard to pick. It's a power, which is a card that does nothing the turn you play it, and then it's a power that requires all this setup. You have to play 5 or more cards just to draw another card. By that time, you don't have the energy. And there's not a lot of decks that can play 5 cards and then want to draw more cards. That's so uncommon. And there are cards that do, but this is kind of where I feel like the term win more comes from. This is asking for a lot to play Pale Blue Dot. I think this card is pretty close to unplayable. This asks so much of me. No, I'm going to put it below Radiate. I think I'm most interested in, like, if people disagree on a card I call unplayable, like how people feel differently about them. I'd love to hear that. That would be interesting. Oh boy, speaking of which, Parry. Have you ever wanted to pay 2 energy for 6 block? Sorry. I wish there was a way to reduce the energy cost in Sovereign Blade. There's a rare that increases the cost in Sovereign Blade, but Parry as a power, this is a relic. My feedback for Mega Crit is that this needs to be a relic. This is a bad power. I never want to play this. It doesn't do nothing. It's just so not worth the setup cost. And 6 block is so pitiful for the point where you're finally playing Sovereign Blade. Like, you're going to block 6 damage? That's it? Really? Are you sure it's going to block anything? Because I don't know. I find Parry very disappointing. It's the kind of card that feels like it should be better, and I would love for it to be better. But the couple of times I tried playing it didn't work out great, and I'm not interested in trying to find any more. So this card becomes unplayable. It's better than the Pale Blue Dot. I think I like Radiate more. Yeah, I think I do. Pillar of Creation. Now this is a card I like. I told you I like creating cards. Pillar of Creation can generate so much block, especially when you have nice things. Like Charge. You have Charge in play. Pillar of Creation generates 6 block. If you have Spectrum Shift, it generates 3 block every turn, and that's unupgraded. I love Pillar of Creation. It's a build around for sure, but it's a great, great payoff. And for some reason, I feel like it's so much easier for Pillar of Creation to work than Child of the Stars. And I think it's because cards that create cards tend to be cheaper than cards that spend star power. You also get block equal to the amount of star power. So you want to play the cheaper things, but you get less block. Pillar of Creation gives you the same amount of block for every colorless card, even if you're getting it for free every turn. Spoilers for Spectrum Shift, by the way. So Pillar of Creation I like a lot, as it's a great payoff for creating cards. I almost want to say I'm happy with it in any deck. Almost. It's probably a stone thrown too far. If that's a phrase, it's probably that. I should probably put it in the good strike territory for sure. Do I like Pillar of Creation more or less than Black Hole? That's an interesting question. Pillar of Creation or Black Hole? I like Pillar of Creation more. It's a better payoff. So can I put it in happy in any deck? Can I put Pillar of Creation in happy in any deck? Particle Wall. Particle Wall's powerful. Yeah, these are powerful cards. Cloak of Stars might have to go down. I'll put it, because I'm going to put this above Cloak of Stars. It's a good payoff. Yeah, I like it just below Hidden Cache. Hidden Cache is very necessary. Pillar of Creation's just really good, but it is really good. But it's a worse payoff than like Supermassive. I think that's true. I think, yeah, right around Particle Wall. I think that's really a good comparison. That's close. I need more time with Particle Wall. I think Particle Wall is really good. Anyway. Orbit. This is a fun card to rank because it looks not great, but it's actually pretty good. This is the kind of energy generation that I have enjoyed having in my deck. It upgrades to costing 1, which I find very valuable as a card to generate energy. I don't want it to cost a lot of energy. And then it just triggers it triggers a lot faster than I expected to. Like, it's more... My expectation was that I would feel like this triggers less than once per turn, and it does not feel that way. It's really easy to plan and work around and be able to get extra energy right when you need it. I really like Orbit. It's very costly to set up, but it can really go in a lot of decks. This is honestly like the wrong character for this effect because sometimes you don't need the energy because you can spend star power instead. But I have used this and I've been happy with this in most decks, if I'm being honest. It does really want to be upgraded. I think that's going to hold it back in the rankings, but I'm going to put it... honestly, I'm going to put it at the bottom of happy in any deck. That's about right. It's still probably worse than that, because it does need to be upgraded. Yeah, it really ends up being worse than a lot of these other cards than just a good strike. There's definitely an extra tier in here that's not being represented, and Crush Under is just taking the whole floor. Yeah, I am gonna put it really high in the good strike plus tier, right above Knockout Blow. That seems good. Finally. It's very late. I'm very tired. So I'm very excited to leave off with Spectrum Shift. I talked about how much I love creating cards, and this creates a card every turn. Again, similar to Orbit, I really want to upgrade this card. 2 cost powers are really debilitating because they do nothing when you play them, and you have to really wait a long time for them to pay off. But this Spectrum Shift with Pillar of Creation is so good. Spectrum Shift with Supermassive pays off so well. And while it's paying that off, you're drawing a card every turn. And it does range from how impactful that card can be. Sometimes the card exhausts. In general, colorless cards are pretty good. Even if you look at the colorless list, all of the colorless cards are uncommon. There are no common colorless cards. They're all uncommon or rare. So really, I just really enjoy playing Spectrum Shift. I think it's a great payoff for this type of deck, which I think is a fun deck to play. And, drawing an extra card every turn is great. Again, that's why upgrading this card's really important, because drawing an extra card a turn in Slay the Spire costs 1 energy. That's about right. And this needs to be upgraded to get there, but it has other benefits as well. It has other synergies. So, Spectrum Shift, big fan. And it can go in any deck. Like, it's not useless in a deck without creation synergies, which is really cool. It does, at worst, it draws you an uncommon or better every turn. I'm going to move this. Yeah, I'm going to move. It's going to be right around here. Ooh, how high can I take this? It is very slow, and it's not that good in the early part of a run. I did put Supermassive below Cosmic Indifference. That's really interesting. I'm going to leave it right there. Cosmic Indifference does feel very high, but it's so good. Like, it's very easy to put in any deck, and it's really good to manipulate cards around it. It's such an easy card to pick. And that's it. That's all the Regent commons and uncommons. This is a lot of fun. I'm so happy that this game is out. I'm very excited, and I'm surprised how much I enjoy playing the Regent. I think this character worked out really well. I think it's balanced really well. I think there's some clunkers for sure, but yeah, super interesting. Crush Under, what an incredibly designed card. Really cool to see now objectively how I feel about these cards. I will probably, let me take a quick gander at this now. Let me make sure there's nothing absolutely terrible that I ranked here, but I feel pretty good about a lot of this. I was really surprised how much of a payoff Supermassive is in the creation deck, but it can do so much damage again, and a lot of these rankings are built so much around the fact that Falling Star is in the starting deck of the Regent. Falling Star is such an impactful card. It helps you, it helps protect you, gives you the access, it gives you easy access to vulnerable. Like the problem with the Ironclad is you can't play Bash and then a 2-cost attack. You can do it next turn, but you have to set it up such that you play Bash this turn and the 2-cost attack next turn, and that's a lot harder to set up. Falling Star gives you the luxury to do that all at once. The limitation is that it only lasts that singular turn, so you have to time it that way. But I don't know, I've really enjoyed working around that limitation, finding different avenues, manipulating it, or adding ways to add finding ways to add vulnerable or weak to it. I think has been really good. The next thing I'm going to do is I'll have to rank all the rares. I'll rank all the rares, and then I need to decide. It's hard to talk about the Regent without talking about ranking colorless cards, because the Regent sees a really unbalanced number of colorless cards compared to the rest of the characters. So you have a lot more exposure to them. You kind of need to know what you're looking for there. So maybe while I'm climbing Ascension with probably Necrobinder, I'm very excited to play with some Asti cards. While I'm doing that, I'll probably do a review of Regent rares, and then I'll probably do a review of colorless cards. Maybe I'll get some relics in there. We'll see how things are going at that point. But I'm really glad to have gotten this off my chest. Regent, surprisingly fun to play. Excited to play more of Regent in the future, and hopefully hear back from a lot of other people about how wrong my opinions are. Nothing would make me more excited.